In the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Well, folks, today for me it's an honor to welcome you to Jersey City, what I believe is one of the greatest cities on earth because of our diversity. We are one of the, perhaps today we are the most ethnically diverse city in the United States of America. And so on behalf of the faith community, the leadership of our city, Mayor Phillip, our distinguished county executive DeJesus here, and all of our public officials, I formally welcome you to our great city. I have the distinct privilege of pastoring a wonderful church in Jersey City called the Sinai Church that has more than 50 ethnic groups, more than 500 families that we have the pleasure of serving. And today I'm grateful to God for our governor, Governor Murphy, for his leadership. I'm grateful, Governor, for your leadership and for your heart and your interest in not just helping all of the people of our great state, but specifically helping our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. Grateful to God for the trip that you made with a small delegation. Some of us who were privileged to go on that trip just to assess some of the damages and assess not just the physical inventory, but most importantly, Governor, the human inventory. And to take that time to sit and speak to some of our brothers and sisters who had been displaced and who need an opportunity to really start again. Folks like my mom, for example, who's still living on the island. She's going to be 89 years of age in just a few more weeks, and has lost her electricity since Hurricane, not Maria, but Irma. And so for us, this is an important day. We are in a center here, Paco, that was built, this organization, Puerto Ricanos, asociados para lo que es la comunidad organizada, Puerto Ricans that were associated to really do some community organizing. Folks like Perfecto Ayala, the late Elio Rivera, my great friend, who really built this place and this institution so that we can provide social services, not just to the Puerto Ricans, but to everybody who lives in this wonderful, wonderful city. And so it's an honor to be here because they represented what it was to use your gifts, talents, and abilities to add value to other people. And so I'm honored, Governor, to be a part of this. And lastly, it's an honor to be able to serve more than 500,000 Puerto Ricanos living in New Jersey, more than 30,000 Puerto Ricanos that have been displaced and that need help, whether it's finding employment, getting their kids in some good public education, or getting access to some good public education and registering their kids, understanding that some of them lost it all in the hurricane and they have no paperwork trail. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to serving. Because that's what my life's about, serving others. And so thank you once again, Governor, for this opportunity. And now it's a blessing and a privilege for me to present one of our congressmen in this region, Albio Cires.
Thank you, Pastor. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, all those elected officials that are here. There's just not enough room to have all you here, but all of you deserve to be here with us. And I want to thank the governor for being here and putting this together. You know, these have been real trying times for Puerto Rico. It's been trying times for all of us because we have been trying to help Puerto Rico for the longest. And just today, they had an incident that a fire on one of the generators, 1/3 of the island is out of power. Already 1/3 of the island has no power. So you can imagine what they're going through. It just doesn't end. But we are here with the governor. He wants to get ahead of the curve, putting a committee together to see what else we can do or what we can do to better the lives of those people in Puerto Rico. And I want to thank him for it. Thank you, Governor, for getting all of us together for that. I remember when the hurricane hit, I attended an event in Newark with the elected officials. Right away, they got on it. Their goal was to raise $100,000, and they raised $200,000. I mean, that is a community coming together to help the people or their families or their relatives in the island. So we are here now with the elected officials. We want to do more than they've been doing. We want to continue to bring the island back to it was and make sure that some of the islands, also the Virgin Islands, your Virgin Islands, some of the other islands, are also helped by the federal government. So thank you for having me here. I'm honored to participate with this group. This is an outstanding group who really feel, who really care about the people of Puerto Rico. So Governor, thank you again for your efforts. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Junior Maldonado. I have the pleasure of serving as the county clerk for Hudson County, and I have the pleasure of being the first Puerto Rican in the state of New Jersey to serve in that capacity. So welcome. Governor, distinguished elected officials that are here today, it's my pleasure to say a few words, and let me acknowledge PACO, the Puerto Rican Association for Community Organization, for the great work that they do in the community. But this building, this complex that we're in, is Villa Borinquen. And Borinquen is the original Taino name for the island of Puerto Rico. So the correlation of Villa Borinquen, the island of Puerto Rico, and PACO goes hand in hand. And we as leaders in this community, myself, and I acknowledge our Councilman Danny Rivera, who's here with us today, when Hurricane Irma hit on September 7th, and then unfortunately Hurricane Maria hit a couple of weeks later, we got to moving. And just like our brothers and sisters in Essex County and Newark got out there and started raising funds, we started generating clothes and food and stuff to be sent to Puerto Rico. We raised over 10 tractor trailer loads, right, correct? And 1.2 million pounds of materials are sent to Puerto Rico. So we're happy about that accomplishment. And in saying that, I want to acknowledge the fact that we as a community came together. And September 30th, at Congreso Boricua had their convention in Newark. And there are people who are people of words, and there are people who are people of action. The former governor, he shall remain nameless, for 8 years talked a good talk, but then walked the walk. Our governor, that day, when he was just a candidate, came to that event, pledged his cooperation, and followed through on that. He led a delegation to Puerto Rico, and today he's going to formalize that by creating a commission that's going to look at what can be done in New Jersey to facilitate social services, housing, and education for the Puerto Ricans who are moving here from our island. So it is my pleasure, and I ask you to join me in a nice round of applause to introduce to you the governor, a man of his word, a man of action, Governor Phil Murphy.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm good. Thank you all. It was said, I believe, by Pastor Rodriguez that Jersey City, I think, literally is the most diverse community in America, and I believe Newark is the second most diverse, and I think you two go back and forth for that honor. I also want to echo what Albio said. We could have as many dignitaries are out there that could be up with us right now, and I want to acknowledge that. We've got a quorum of the Newark City Council, among other things. So thank you guys for coming. Danny, thank you for representing the great Jersey City. Senator Cunningham, thank you for hosting us in your backyard. Todd DeGeese in Hudson County, thank you for that, and many other visiting dignitaries. It's a real honor to be here, and by the way, in my case, and I think in the case of probably everybody, to be back here. And so, honored to be here. Albio, Congressman, thank you so much for your support, for your leadership, and for your advocacy for our state. The pastor and I were having a side conversation before we got here. We can only imagine what it's like going to work every day in Washington, so you're in our prayers.
Thank you, Pastor.
Pastor, thank you for your words and prayers of inspiration. I'm also honored today, in addition to many other folks, so there are probably literally 50 people in this room I could say something personal and meaningful about, but it is a particular treat that Carlos Mercader, Executive Director of the Puerto Rico Federal Affairs Administration in Washington, is with us today. So, Carlos, thank you. We're in, buddy. Thank you, man. It is great to be back in Jersey City. It is wonderful to be back at Paco. When we talk about building a stronger and fairer New Jersey, we have to begin by looking at the organizations already working hard to build stronger and better communities, and Paco does just that. My hat is off to each and every one of you associated with Paco for all the work you do, whether it's Frank Molina, Chair, Julio Garcia, Executive Director, and Pastor Rodriguez mentioned the spirit of Elio Rivera, who's the front plaza here, if I'm not mistaken, is named in his honor. But great work, not just being done today, but across generations. Paco embodies the spirit of community and of having the backs of others that we so desperately need more of in our state and in our country. And when I say our country, I mean every part of our country, including and especially Puerto Rico. 2 months ago, as was mentioned, I love the fact Gil jumps in there when there's a moment, just a little laugh. 2 months ago, the First Lady and I led a delegation of New Jersey leaders, members of the legislature, local officials, and faith and business leaders to Puerto Rico to see firsthand the devastation that our fellow Americans, and I underscore fellow Americans, experience from Hurricane Maria, and to learn what we can do to help the island and its people rebuild. I had a number of, Louis, I'm going to pick on you, a number of people had invited me to go during the campaign, and I couldn't make it, and I said, I promised, win or lose, we were going to go after the election, and we were honored to go. There were many here today who were with us on that day, on December 15, on that trip. Senator Ruiz is with us today, and I can't thank you enough for your friendship and leadership. Senator Poe was with us that day. Both of them made that trip with us, and I think, Senator Poe, since then you've at least returned, and I know many of you have as well. We've got a lot of folks here. Mayor Per Thamboy, Mayor Wilda Diaz was with us that day. Wilda, it's always an honor to have you with us. Other folks, Tonio Burgos was there, Gil was there, Reverend Adita was there, Al Alvarez organized it, thank you for that, Alex and Colatzos. Arlene Quinones Perez, thank you for your leadership and friendship, and there are so many others who were with us on that day and who go down there with regularity. I commend each and every one of you for your efforts. It also has to be said, he wasn't with us, but he was elected, and he's a brand new minted mayor, and he's in the house today. Michael Soriano is in the house from Parsippany. Proud of his Puerto Rican roots. Darn proud of his Puerto Rican roots, and it's an honor to have you with us today. I remain ever grateful to Governor Ricardo Rossello for welcoming us and our team during that island's greatest time and need and all that he had on his plate. I spoke to the governor this morning. Congressman Sierras mentioned the fact that they had yet another curveball thrown at them yesterday with a big explosion and fire that knocked out a bunch of power. He was, having said that, fully engaged, very cognizant, and focused on what we're doing right now. We may have only spent one day there, but the impacts of that day are lasting. Beyond our basic humanity, there is a direct imperative for New Jersey to be part of Puerto Rico's healing process. Over 500,000 New Jerseyans are of Puerto Rican descent, the third largest Puerto Rican community in the United States. Moreover, in the weeks and months since Hurricane Maria, approximately, my guess is this number is lowballing it, 30,000 or more Puerto Rican residents have relocated to New Jersey while the island rebuilds. These are our fellow Americans, and these are our fellow New Jerseyans. When we were in San Juan in December, I made a promise to Governor Rossello that I would not forget Puerto Rico and that New Jersey wouldn't either, and today we are keeping that promise. I will sign in a few minutes, I hope we have enough pens, an executive order, our 10th creating the Commission on Puerto Rico Relief, committing New Jersey to being part of the relief and rebuilding process, and further strengthening the relationship between our state and the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. Specifically, and this is some elements of this in the category it will inclusive but not limited to, the Commission will ensure proper coordination among state agencies and the nonprofit community so families displaced by Hurricane Maria and living in New Jersey receive the same services they need, or receive the services they need. We will also ensure that evacuees in our state have access to the federal benefits for which they may qualify. The Commission will also consider, again, this is a list not limited to, but including the moratorium on foreclosures in Puerto Rico that is set to expire next month. How our utility companies can assist with power restoration. That was important 24 hours ago. It's gotten even more important since then. Ralph Izzo, Chief Executive Officer, PSE&G, was with us in December, and I appreciate his engagement and the engagement of the other big utilities in this state. And whether our state and county colleges in New Jersey can host Puerto Rican students and professors whose own institutions have been impacted. And the Commission will look at ways that the state can greater incent individuals and the nonprofit community to get involved in Puerto Rico in its recovery. I'm also honored to announce the chairman of the Commission will be Reverend, we've just heard from him, Pastor Joshua Rodriguez. Pastor, thank you again. Thank you for your leadership at City Line, where I've had the great thrill to worship, but to your service to this state, and in particular to your service to Puerto Rico, and an early happy birthday to your mom. I also want to give a shout out to Peggy Anastas, who could not be with us today. Her dad is sick and she needs to be with him. Peggy will serve as the vice chair, and it's an august group, members of this commission. We aren't going to do this only through the lens of New Jersey, and this is an important point. On this commission, which is why I wanted to speak with the governor this morning, will sit 2 members appointed by Governor Roseo, who will ensure that our efforts are directed to where they are most needed. This will ensure open and helpful lines of communication. The last thing we want to do is to think we're doing the right thing, but to do it in a vacuum and not have that connectivity to the reality of what, in fact, is needed. Hurricane Maria is one of the costliest natural disasters in our nation's history. The uncounted emotional toll of lives lost and families separated only adds to the roughly $100 billion in physical damage to Puerto Rico's housing, infrastructure, and communities. In passing the new federal budget early Friday, Congress provided the island with approximately $16 billion. This is a start, but we know it is but a fraction of what is needed to rebuild. So this is the time for us to step up. It is time for us to show our humanity and our connection not just with our fellow Americans, but with an island whose culture and beauty is alive and well here in New Jersey. I am so grateful to Governor Roseo for his partnership and friendship, and for Executive Director Mercader's representing him here today. The hearts of all of us here and the hearts of all New Jerseyans remain with the people of Puerto Rico and the many New Jersey families with loved ones on the island. And I'm so grateful in particular to Paco for hosting us here today. We cannot by ourselves make up for the slow pace of the federal response. We cannot carry the entire island on our backs, but we cannot let our fellow Americans down. This is what we do as New Jerseyans, and I am proud to take this step today, and I thank you very, very much. I want to ask, if I may, I'd like to ask Carlos if you wouldn't mind coming up and saying a few words on behalf of the governor in Puerto Rico. We'll then take a few questions, if that's okay, and then we'll sign the order. Does that sound all right?
No, of course.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So I am the director of the Puerto Rico office in D.C. I want to, on behalf of the governor, Ricardo Rosselló, I want to say thank you to Governor Murphy for being a friend and being committed since day one with Puerto Rico. I want to say that when you campaign in politics, you say a lot of things. But when you act upon the words that you campaign on, you just are showing your real commitment. And Governor Murphy has been doing that since day one. Today, this is another proof of that. So I want a big round of applause for Governor Murphy. So on September 17th, the governor in Puerto Rico, he had a private briefing with FEMA about Hurricane Maria. And I remember after the briefing, he called me and he said, Carlos, just so you know, this is going to be a devastating hurricane for Puerto Rico. And at the time, devastation for me, I don't know, I had seen, big cars going over other cars, and I said, oh, that's devastating. I had seen things, I lived through different hurricanes in Puerto Rico, and I had seen what the aftermath of those hurricanes. But devastation, as we've seen with Maria, I had never imagined. And those words, they're still there with me when he said devastation. Now I know what devastation is. So the day of the 20th and the 21st, our office, the office in D.C., basically was the only government office that was open. Obviously, the only office that was not in the island, right? So we were the ones from the get-go trying to communicate between federal government, different state governments, and also, the different officials in the island. And I remember talking to my team there and saying, I don't know how we're going to do this. We cannot even communicate with the housing director, with actually the health secretary. He was trapped in his home for more than 3 days. The director of the public security, Hector Pesquera, he was also trapped in his house for 2 days. Things were really, 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 really bad. And I remember I went to do an interview at WPIX the morning of the hurricane, and I gave out the number of our office. I said, people who want to help, people who want to, if they want to know anything about their relatives or something, just call our office and let's see how we can work together. I didn't know what I was doing. So from that day on, we logged in 13 or 14 days, almost like 2 weeks, we logged in 375,000 calls, mostly from people from New York, New Jersey. So in Puerto Rico, the recovery and this whole process after the hurricane, we wouldn't be able to be here. I wouldn't be able to be here. We wouldn't be able to say that we've gone such a long road now in the recovery efforts if it was not for the people of New Jersey. So I want to say thank you to each and everyone, all of the Puerto Rican community here, but also the rest of the community, all of the Jersey citizens, all of the generosity, the outpouring of generosity that we received in the island from this great state. It's something that we will never forget. It's something that, I get a little bit emotional, but I just want you to understand how difficult this process has been, but how great it has been that through this process we've had you having on our backs, basically giving us all of what you. All of your energy, all of your generosity. So that I will forever remember. I want to say again, thank you to everyone, and the people of Puerto Rico are grateful to you, and we will always be also with you till the end. So thank you very much.
I realize I didn't acknowledge the history that you made, Junior, and thank you for your very kind introduction. So thank you for that. And I see Mayor Turner, I see you in the back there. I just want to make sure you know I saw that. Maybe take a couple of questions. Is that all right, folks? Does that work? May I? Anybody? Ma'am? So a couple of things. Number one, I think would probably be here today even if there had been a robust federal response because of the deep ties between New Jersey and Puerto Rico. I think that's fair to say. This is too deeply enmeshed, too passionate, too real for too many families in the state to be sitting on the sidelines. Secondly, I said this on our trip in San Juan, whether you measure it through state troopers or nurses who are still in Puerto Rico, I think the Christie administration actually put their best foot forward. I hope we can put an even better foot forward by doing this. But the federal response, I think, it measured in every dimension, has been wanting. Bodies, timing, money, vision, sensitivity, the notion of implication that these folks are not American. And so it's hard to know without giving you a very, very long answer as to where it's been wanting, but I think it's fair to say it's been wanting across the board, and we're under no illusions that we can fill the gap, because there are too many gaps. But hopefully in our own small way. I said we can't put Puerto Rico on our backs, but we can have their backs, and I hope in our own small way this can step us in that direction. Please.
Sticking on Trump, but slightly different topic. The federal infrastructure plan does not include funding for Gateway. How much more can New Jersey plead its case that this is critical and needs to happen now? How can we make that happen if we aren't getting what we, the funds from the federal government?
Yeah, I continue to be, on the one hand, underwhelmed by the infrastructure plan, which has a lot of good words associated with it, but not a lot of coin, specific to Gateway or more broadly. No, I'm saying I'm underwhelmed in both respects. Having said that, I still believe that this is enough of a multi-state matter. It's enough of a national security matter. It's enough of a bipartisan matter that at the end of the day, we will get to a good place. But I have to admit to you, it looks like it's taking longer, and the steps are more incremental than, for my taste, I'd like. Albie and I were just talking about this. This is probably a fraction of what our state needs, or frankly, the country needs. We're still paying a huge price for the cancellation of the ARC tunnel, which would be about getting open at this point. The Gateway project is it's not optional. This is pass-fail. So I'm of the opinion we're going to stay at it. We talked to our federal delegation. We talked to the delegations across the river. The governor. I mean, this is one where we need to have a very big group advocating with one clear voice. And I believe if we can, cooler heads will prevail and we'll get the right result. Matt.
Governor, you said this is an executive order, right? So at any point are you going to, or have you already sat down with the legislative leaders and talked about your priorities, long-term priorities beyond executive orders, and how you're going to get those done?
Yeah, absolutely. So the executive orders, Matt, are things that we believe we not only can do, but we must do. So I'll give you, and they are not required, or in some cases are not appropriate for legislation. So I'll give you the first one. Nobody in the state department or agency can any longer ask someone about their prior salary history. That is subject to an executive order. What we need, and we've talked about extensively with legislative leaders, is an equal pay for equal work legislation that would apply to anybody who's doing business in New Jersey. So those are two different ways to get at the same result. An audit of NJ Transit. We need to understand what's been going on in there, because my guess is it hadn't been pretty. That's the right vehicle for that. An audit for the Economic Development Authority, where you have to get in and say, listen, you promised, we said we'd give you X, you promised Y, you delivered Z. We need to understand all of that. Again, that's not subject to legislation. That's subject to executive action. Before we got inaugurated, and since then, almost daily, I think actually I could say daily if you include not just me, but our senior team, we're in regular discussion with leadership on both sides of the aisle, but in particular on our side of the aisle, in the majority, on putting together a legislative agenda. We've got to put a budget address up, as is the practice. Thankfully, they give you a couple more weeks to put that together when you've just been elected. So that'll most likely be a March event and not a February event. But it's also, I say that because associated with that comes an enormous amount of priority discussions and legislative discussions. Maybe one more, sir?
Yes. Ricardo Villarín with Mundo 47. Thank you for the opportunity.
Will you allow me to answer this in English?
Yes.
Bless you.
Very Puerto Ricans, new Puerto Ricans regarding staying now. Do you expect that number to rise? And do you have the resources in place you need in order to provide that?
Yeah, we're going to, part of the reality of this commission is to make sure we have the resources. And by the way, I should have said this up front. This is a 3-month, Chairman, right? This is a 3-month commission. And one of the things I spoke to Governor Rosselló about earlier today, and Carlos, you and I should follow up on this, is the notion of whether or not when the commission completes its work, whether or not we can associate that with a trip that he would be normally making up north, and we could do this together. So part of the reason for that commission is to determine, to make sure we've got the resources, whether it's education, housing, or social services. I would defer to the experts. Do you think the number will continue to grow, or is it stabilized?
Yeah, I mean, prior to the devastation in the island, we already saw an increase of Puerto Ricans coming to the mainland because the economic instability of the island was clear and evident. This was just the tipping point that really led it in a direction, whether you were making a decision to relocate or not. I mean, there were still driving economic factors that were bringing families over to the mainland to secure jobs. This obviously, I think, has expedited it, and so while we say 30,000, I think the number will continue.
Yeah, I'm sure it's low.
Governor,
Yes,
what
Senator.
I would add was my recent trip to Puerto Rico, certainly in this one small town of the district of just one particular area, Humacao, there were 4 public schools in that very small town that actually closed as a result of the number of families and children that have left that particular area into the mainland. So
It may never
that's
come back,
just-
right?
Exactly, and that's just one very small section. You can just imagine what it's like on
Yeah.
the island in its entirety. So clearly, those kind of information and changes are occurring
Yeah.
every single day.
So this is an important point. I want to come back, if I may. Amen to that. I want to come back. This was not a pretty, happy, economically imbalanced picture the day before the hurricane. The way the whole federal government, including the last administration, has been thinking about the governance of Puerto Rico, its economy, its rights, whether it's in the economic reality or more broadly, was not in an acceptable place, in my humble opinion. This has made a challenging situation meaningfully worse. With that, I think I'm going to go over and sign. Does that sound all right with everybody? Thank you all. I have to do the money shot here without my glasses. I believe you, Junior. I've got them. Okay, now we get to the real hard business of. Oh, sorry, I took that picture with the wrong pen.
Start over.
That's my fake pen. Okay,
Take a new picture with the real.
with the real pen. This is one I always check these to make sure this is.
Down in front.
What's that?
Cell phones in the front, you can't see it.
Mine is in my pocket. Okay, here we
All
go.
members of this commission, Governor, the members of this commission is.
Why don't we do that once we get the signing? Is that all right? Thank you. Again, there are many people who can say, Frank, you're getting the number first shot here. Where are you, man? Thanks again for hosting us today, all right? Love you, buddy.
From Puerto Rico.
Alvio, I think you're my oldest political acquaintance perhaps in the entire state.
I thought you were saying oldest friend.
No.
You meant time, not age.
I meant time and not age, exactly. Junior. Love you, buddy. Thank you, man. Congratulations to you as well. Carlos, thank you for coming up to join us today.
Well, thank you, Governor.
Honored to have you. Senator Poe, I promised you this. It took me a couple weeks longer than I thought it would take. But
Thank you, sir.
God bless you. Can't tell, but I feel Senator Ruiz is right off my left shoulder.
It's the presence.
God bless
Thank you.
Congratulations. I want to give I got a couple extras. I'm going to give one to Wilda. Wilda, God bless you for being.
Give it to her.
It's an honor.
God
Thank
bless
you so much.
God
God bless
bless
you too. Amen.
Great to
Thank
see
you.
you. And I want to give two pins in absentia. One, Assemblywoman Chaparro, who could not be here today, who was with us in December, who did really great work on that trip. And so I want to give that to her. I'll put that aside. And my friend Peggy, who wanted to be here desperately so, but could not be because her dad is ill, so let's keep him in our prayers. And then I end with the chairman. Pastor, you get to round it out. Thank you, sir. God bless you. God bless you all. That's good.